Hey, Brennan here. Welcome to the channel and thanks for tuning in. Week 1 of college football is in the books, and my podcast co-host Jason DiRienzo and we're going to give you our Devy stock up and stock down players after their Week 1 performances. So we're going to give you a total of 8 players, 4 stock up, 4 stock down. Players in college football that should hit our dynasty rosters, or at least that is the hope in the future. So you play Devy, you play C2C, you know what this is all about. But if you play dynasty or even redraft fantasy football, Devy is basically just a term for, we're looking at college players that are going to be hitting our dynasty rosters in the future. So you play dynasty, man. These are great shows to get an early look at future draft classes. So hit that subscribe button, man. You play any kind of fantasy format. I got a ton of content on this channel, not only shows like this. We're going to be doing this show weekly, by the way. So tune in each and every week. We're also going to do a NFL 2025 rookie stock report also each and every week. So again, thanks for watching. Enjoy the show. Great way to get an early look at future dynasty players. Enjoy the show. All right, Jason, let's get to our Devy stock report. All right, this is going to be fun part of the show. We're going to do this weekly, everybody. We're going to go give you 2 each of our stock ups and then 2 stock down players. I'm going to start us off, and my first Devy stock up player is going to be Nate Frazier, Georgia running back. We just spoke about him briefly doing the game recaps. He was my RB1 pretty much all summer long in my Devy ranks on my dashboard. We just did he was my boom player last week on the podcast, and I made a prediction that he was going to get more run than people thought as the season went on. Little did I know, week 1, he was going to come out and steal the show, showing that acceleration, showing the change of directions. The sweet feet meter was off the charts, Jason, but he had, what did he have here? He had 11 attempts for 83 yards, 7.5 average, yards after contact, 5.18, and 4 forced missed tackles forced on 11 attempts. So, but it was pretty clear. We talked about it earlier. Branson Robinson was running with the ball, and then they put him in, and he shot out of the backfield like a cannon and just created that spark in the running back room. I won't be surprised if he doesn't get the rock a lot each week, even with ETN coming back. I think he's going to get mixed in. He's just too explosive to keep him on the sideline. So Nate Frazier is my first Devy stock up player for week 1 after college football.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, he looked good, and that's a great sign. Even when Trevor Etienne comes back, how can you keep a guy like that off the field?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. I'm gonna go with the running back position myself, and I'm going with Tennessee running back Dylan Sampson. And we had been talking about him for quite a while this summer. And man, he just I understand it's against Chattanooga, but there were some elements to his game I was hoping to see that would improve, or at least he would, get more functional strength to him, and that's the functional strength. He was running between the tackles. That's how he got one of his touchdowns, running between defenders. That was great to see. And I also like the elusiveness. It was something I saw on film, but I wanted to see it when he was stringing together moves, and he did a beautiful job of that. So great game, 12 attempts, 124 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 receptions for 29 yards, and a PFF elusive rating of 300. So he was making everybody miss out there, apparently. Just really good to see. Good showing right out the gate. Tennessee looks like it's going to be a pretty strong, explosive offense, and I think Dylan Sampson is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, it's like Jalen Wright this time last year. Really not a
Yeah,
whole lot of
kind of. Yep.
people were talking about him from Tennessee, and he ended up not making a comparison. He's going to take the same leap, but Dylan Sampson, he's an explosive player. So
Yeah. Yep.
he's got the traits to I think make it to the NFL. So my second stock up player I'm going to go with is, I'm staying in the Georgia Bulldog room, and I'm going with London Humphreys, and I'm going to call it right now. I think this guy is going to be the next Lad McConkey. I know that's going to be a lazy comp, but this guy, I think he's underrated. He's an incoming transfer from Vanderbilt. He had a lot of yards as a freshman and 4 TDs last year. I don't know exactly what the yardage was, playing in the SEC. Comes there and had 2 really explosive catches, one for a touchdown. He has a PFF grade of a 90.8, but I don't know, man. I think this guy, I think the wide receivers room is wide open for Georgia. I mean, I don't think that there's anyone in that room that we can say, whether it's Dylan Bell or I don't know, some of the other guys. I mean, they got all those tight ends, right? And we kind of talked about earlier in the show, they weren't getting any targets. No, Oscar Delp didn't really get involved in the game. I'm going to make a prediction that London Humphreys is, by the end of the season, if not the number 1 receiver on this team, but the number 2 receiver in yardage by the time the season comes. I think this guy is underrated. I think he's very underrated, and he is moving up my Devy draft board or my Devy rank boards pretty significantly after week 1.
Yeah, and to back up what you're saying, I don't think Ladd is a lazy comp because you had Lennon Humphreys as your deep dive player, I think like a
Mhm.
segment or two ago
Right?
on one of our podcasts, and you went over his athleticism, and it's
Yeah,
very similar to
it
Ladd
is.
McConkey's type of
It is.
athleticism, you know. So yeah, I can't disagree with you here, especially the showing that he had in week 1. It's absolutely a possibility. So I think it's a great call. I'm gonna go to the receiver position as well. This might be a lazy one myself, but man, I'm going with Ryan Williams, Alabama,
Yeah,
true
man.
freshman receiver that just looks phenomenal. I mean, right out the gate. I mean, the explosiveness, the twitchiness of his athleticism, the yards after the catch ability. Dude, this guy is going to be phenomenal. I
Yeah,
honestly think when it's all said and done that he's going to be a better prospect than Devonta Smith from what I've seen from his high school film and what I saw from week 1. And I understand it was against lesser competition, but if you actually watch him and just his movements and his understanding of his routes and just how to manipulate as a receiver, it's really impressive. So Ryan Williams, to me, he is going to be I mean, I already had him up there quite a bit. He's going to be
yeah.
moving drastically up my ranks quite a bit. He's absolutely a top receiver in Debbie.
Yeah, he's an explosive guy. I mean,
Oh my god.
and he's just
Oh
a
my god.
space creator. I mean, that's what the game, that's what
Absolutely.
the wide receiver position's all about. You got to create
Right.
space for yourself. And I think he can do that pre and post route. I think he has the ability to win before and then be explosive in the second level. So I love that call. I think he's the stock arrow. We're ready for our next big Bama wide receiver, right?
Oh god, yeah. They
So,
need it. They need it
so
so bad.
I know, right, right. So we love talking about there's your 4 Devy stock up, right? So we're going to talk about stock down, right? So and again, it doesn't mean that we're lowering these people drastically in our ranks, but after week 1, our expectations were high, right? We were
Right.
expecting to, have all of our favorite Devy players, do something, and some didn't, and we're going to talk about them now. So, first one, I'm going to go with the LSU running back Caleb Jackson from LSU. I mean, the John Emery Jr. reemerged like a bad wart on your hand, and all of a sudden has emerged, back into the form and looked pretty good, which leads me to believe that there is going to be a committee. I think the coach loves the toughness and physicality that John Emery Jr. ran. I mean, Caleb Jackson got the ball early in the game. He had 6 attempts for 18 yards, averaged 3 yards a carry, which, isn't great. And then John Emery Jr. kind of emerges and we don't see him in the second half. So there's a lot of excitement. I have a couple shares of Jackson. I was excited to see him. We were all hoping, we saw flashes last year of him and how explosive
Mhm.
and physical and powerful he was. And we were all waiting for the next LSU bell cow. And now all of a sudden I'm coming away thinking, wow, this could be just a committee. Like you'd mentioned earlier in the podcast. He might not get a featured role, which I think is going to diminish his Devy value a little bit.
Yeah, I agree, which is absolutely a shame. But you know what? Felix was really high in Caleb Jackson. I really honestly believe that this is just week 1. Maybe they just went with the
Mm-hmm.
hot hand. Maybe they just went with momentum. The way that Felix talks about Caleb Jackson, I can't disagree. When we did our mock draft, I think there's still potential there. But yeah, that rotation is actually what bothers me. The
Yeah.
opportunities I think are going to be limited.
Yeah, and I just again, we're not saying we're down on these players for you to like get
Right,
away
right,
from them, or we're just saying it's week 1. Yeah, I mean, look, you have to say he's at least a stock down, just given what we saw in the field
for
this past
sure.
weekend. Yeah,
Yeah, especially when John Emery is
hmm
beating him up, that's
and I
not good.
think we can say the same thing about your first stock down player, someone we're excited about,
Yeah,
but he's a stock down. There's no doubt.
he's a stock down, and a lot of it has to do with opportunity, the team that he's on, and the quarterback he's playing
Hmm.
for, and that's gonna be Eugene Wilson, the Florida receiver, and it's a shame. I mean, he did have a good amount of targets. I think what do you have? 8 targets, 7
Right.
receptions, 50 yards. That's awesome. Moving forward, they have one of the toughest schedules in college football. Graham Mertz, if he doesn't
Mm,
play, it's gonna be DJ Lagway, and as much as I love DJ Lagway, and I think he's gonna be a phenomenal quarterback, he is entering into a situation that is not ideal. He's going to
yeah.
be, entering into a situation where he's going against one of the hardest schedules in college football. What do you expect from this guy? I think we're going to see a lot more legs from DJ Lagway than throwing, and that is going to absolutely impact Trey Wilson or Eugene Wilson, as some are still familiar with him as. And then they have Elijah Badger, who I think is very similar to what Wilson can do. I think they have very similar skill sets. And Aiden Mizell, they were trying to get him the ball. He has a very similar skill set too. So I think the target share is going to be an issue. I think the schedule is going to be an issue. I think the quarterback's going to be an issue. I just think there's issues all around, and that's why Trey Wilson is definitely going to be moving down.
Yeah, I mean, a quarterback plays a role. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Absolutely.
An
Yeah.
environment team. We're not going to be able to see the best from Wilson. So I get it. Of course, he's probably going to have his productive games here and there. But
He's got 200 yards next week, and I'd be
yeah,
happy with that.
yeah,
Let's make it happen. I'm
exactly.
cool with it.
So this is a spicy one, my second stock down, and he was on my overrated list that we did. Devy overrated players that we did on the podcast a couple weeks ago. But I'm going to go Zachariah Branch. He had an A dot of it's negative 0.2. Right.
Mhm.
I listen. Zachariah Branch is an explosive player. There's no doubt about it. He is wide receiver one in Devy for people that I know for my dashboard subscribers. Right. He's in the
Mhm.
top 5 for a lot. But until I see him win a one-on-one battle vertically and is used like a traditional, because I saw a lot of this last year, this around the line of scrimmage, wide receiver screens, short inside slants, 5-10 yards, get the ball in his hands and let him do his damage. So my question is, how is that going to relate to the NFL when you're playing with the best athletes in the world? Yes, he's twitchy. Yes, he's a space creator, but I want to see the vertical plays, and I'm sure we're going to see it this year. There's no doubt about it. Where we're going to see the
Mhm.
bombs and Miller Moss, throwing it down 40 yards and he's streaking down. But until I see that, I just see this around the line of scrimmage, short area passing stuff, and I want to see some vertical plays. I want to see some traditional, seam plays in the middle of the field where he's crossing the field, really making catches and doing just a little bit more. So he's my stock down player. I'm not lowering him in my ranks right now. I'm just after what I saw. I want to see some more down the field prowess.
Yeah, I love Zachariah Branch. He's absolutely up in my ranks for me. I mean, he's a top 3 receiver, I think. But at the same time, I understand what you're saying because big issue, it's this very Rondale Moore-ish, the way he's being used, and that did not translate well to the next level. So I kind of agree with you. Until I see some more nuance and route running, and make me feel like he's gonna have an actual role and nuance
Mhm.
at the position, yeah, it is concerning. So I can absolutely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, and so
I'm
like,
gonna
last thing, just the thing is, like, keep an eye
yeah,
on it because his value is so high right now. You know what I mean? You just keep
true.
an eye on
Yeah,
it. Just keep an eye on it.
absolutely. I'm gonna go with the Clemson receivers, and
Yeah.
it's kind of what I talked about with Trey Wilson. It's the team looks not in sync at all. The offensive line is not allowing Cade Klubnik time, and even when Cade Klubnik has time, he's making bad decisions and erratic throws. It was great to see Antonio Williams overcome that in this game, against Georgia. So that's another thing to take it in account. That's a great defense. But man, I mean, there's guys on this team that we like. TJ Moore, I know you and I are absolutely in love with. That would be a shame to waste his talent so early on and him not get opportunities because Kate Klubnik can't get him the ball. Adam Randall, Antonio Williams, and even Jake Brenningstool, who I really like at tight end. So I don't want to see these guys wasted, but as of right now, I gotta feel like these guys are all stocked down. And so until we see K Klubnik do something or they make it switch at quarterback, it's kind of hard to get excited about any of these guys.
I can imagine the frustration from a player like Antonio Williams because I saw some
I
frustration
know,
watching that game where you want to go to the NFL. I mean, you were
right?
ready to showcase your skills, and you got a guy that just can't consistently get you ball. It has to be very frustrating because
Yeah, I
I'd
agree.
I would hit the transfer portal in a heartbeat. So, but there you guys got it. That is our Debbie stock report for week 1.